Hello everyone, it is Evan here from thetraderisk.com, and in today's video we're going to be reviewing Worden TC2000. Now, for those of you who have been subscribers to our channel, know that we are no strangers to TC2000. We have published, I think, over 600 videos and counting at this time using their software. We've been subscribers since 2012, maybe 2013 is when I first discovered the platform, and I've been a subscriber since. It has been the primary software package charting platform that I have used for technical analysis, building watch lists, and scanning for stocks over this time. So we've got lots of materials and lots of guides on scanning for stocks and PCF formula, and we've worked with hundreds of traders, maybe even thousands at this point, helping them curate stocks and write scans, but we've never actually done a review of the platform. And recently we've gotten a lot of questions coming in about what you can do with TC2000, what's capable, and they also just released version 20 with a bunch of new updates. And so we figured, why not now just do a little overview, a tour of the platform. We're going to talk about some of our favorite features and what it's capable of, and we're also going to be critical about it in some spots. There's obviously room for improvement. We've got a wish list of items that we would like to see tackled by their development team. So we're going to talk about some things that we think they could progress or do a little bit better in the future as well. So this video will have timestamps below, so if you want to skip to any certain sections, if you're interested in a certain part of the platform, check the description. We also have this available as an article, so we'll link it up now. If you rather just read the blog post, jump to the sections that you want, you can certainly do that as well. So let's dive in here with the layout and with the workspace. And we're going to use some jargon here. We're going to use the terminology that Worden TC2000 uses in their platform. So this used to be called, layout groups, I believe was the phrase they used to use, and they really seem to just refer to it as a workspace now. And what we're looking at here is the factory default workspace. So when you become a TC2000 subscriber, this will be your factory default that you start the platform with. And it looks a little intimidating, but basically everything here can be customizable. Everything here can move, and you can adjust these layouts as you see fit. So what we're looking at is a workspace filled with a bunch of different layouts, and the layouts are the different tabs you see at the bottom of the screen here. So if you can follow the mouse in the bottom corner, you can see we're looking at the trading layout. We can switch over to the TC Classic layout. You can go to drill down, sector by year, which is a really cool one of my favorites that they preload this with, and right down the list you can see there's just all different views here that you can have available and toggle between during market hours. And what's cool with this is, depending on what mode you're in, right? So right now I'm recording this after markets have closed, and for me, I'm interested in doing my homework or my research when markets are closed, and I'll have a particular layout that I like to look at to do my homework, to prepare for the next day. But when the markets are actually open, I prefer a different layout. I'm not in research phase. I'm more interested in looking at the minute by minute bars, or the tick by tick, if you will, and really kind of getting a feel of what the market's doing. And if I'm placing orders, I'm trying to get the best fill possible. So having different layouts and being able to quickly toggle between them is a very cool tool or just feature to have at your disposal. Some other platforms out there are a little more rigid in their layouts and what you can do. With TC2000, you can really move things around. So again, I can click this move arrow on any of the charts or the watch lists. I can create tabs. So there's tabs instead of just moving it on the screen somewhere. I can swap it with different places. I can put it over here, so suddenly I have a bigger screen, and then maybe have some sub charts there on larger time frames. I can really do just anything you want in terms of the number of charts, number of watch lists, number of scans that you have active all at once. And it is really seamless to move about that. A cool feature that I like here is the ability to link up time frames and symbols across these different grids or layouts here. So for instance, what I can do is if I click this T up here and I put this on a blue time frame link, okay, and then I go to this other chart over here and I switch this T to a blue time frame link, you'll notice now both of these, when I change the time frame on this, are going to change identical, right? So they're each going to go to the same exact time frame. So right now they're both on a 65-minute time frame. I can go down to a minute time frame. Both of them are going to change. Now you probably don't want the same symbol because there's no reason to actually look at the same chart on two different sized windows. What you may actually be caring about here is putting this to an S&P 500. So let's do this for instance. So this chart here has the smaller chart has the SPY, and then this has Disney right now. So perhaps I want to just keep the time frames between SPY and Disney the same, and I can do that by linking up this T here. And if I'm trading during the session and I'm looking at fills or trying to make a purchase on Disney, I may care about what the SPY is doing in that moment and kind of compare it, eyeballing the two charts side by side. So that's a cool little trick there. And you can also link up watch lists. You can link up other charts, and across these different layouts, across the tabs, you can actually set this time frame link to whatever you feel appropriate or whatever you want synced. You can also do that with a symbol. So again, we have time frame linked, but we can change the symbols across different charts, watch lists, or scans. So basically here, if we look at the S down here, we can switch this to an orange symbol link. And if we go up here and we change this to orange, now you can see they both have Disney. So if I switch this to Apple, you can see Apple in the bottom right, Apple over here. If I change the time frame, then again, only this one is updating up here because these are the two that have time frame linked. I could also switch the time frame to match the link here as well. So that's a cool little trick there. As you get more familiar and comfortable with the platform, you can start making those decisions to just frankly be more efficient and to sort of streamline what you're looking at. Next, I want to talk about just charts in general. I'm going to switch over to this view here, and I'm going to just clean this up, and I'm going to switch over to a chart I don't have any drawings on, but I really just want to talk about the sort of crisp, clear, and responsive charts. And you can see here with the SPY right now, we're looking at a bar chart. You can switch this to candlesticks. You can switch this to Heikin-Ashi. There's lots of different options here. But really what I care about is just the smoothness as you move around here. As I scroll the mouse, kind of up and down, the chart's really responsive. There's no delay. I can drag the time bar back here and really just move across the time frame and the time series, drilling in and out, and it's just really responsive. And they've done a good job really polishing the real behavior here of how to interact with charts, and it just feels real comfortable and natural. So I really like that about their charts. If you another cool trick here is if you actually just click and hold, what you'll see is the data box in this top left is going to appear. You can also make it so it appears all the time, but if I click and hold here and then I just drag the mouse right across the screen and you look at that data box, you can see that you can actually get a count here. So I've gone 48 bars, and it's been approximately a 9.48% return from where I started to click the mouse to where it is finalized on the screen right here. So you get some cool data. If I had other indicators, it would show all of those values in there as well. And it's just a really nice, clean way to sort of, move around the chart and get some data there as you do that. If I click the top right drawing tools here, you can see these are all the different drawing tools that you have available. It's pretty much everything that you might expect from other platforms. You can draw trend lines, you can highlight things, you can put Fibonacci, you can do all kinds of different retracements and drawing tools there. I'm not going to get into all of that right here. Of course, we're only touching on a small subset, small sample of features throughout this video. It would be hours and hours if I were to try and go through everything. They do have a great help website where they have lots of other tutorials and videos that you can watch about the platform. So one other thing is notice all the different boards here. So you can have all different boards for drawing on your charts. So if you are like me, I have little dots on all of these, which means I basically have drawings on all 9 of these boards here, which basically, just means that I've done a lot of doodling here for different videos or different analysis of my own. And you can switch those boards and preserve some of those layouts, the trend lines, the levels that you care about, and really have a good number to kind of fall back on. So that's a little bit about charts. Let's get a little more technical now. Let's bring up some watch lists. So if I click the watch lists button up here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring up the sector. Actually, you know what? I'm going to bring up the sector ETFs, which is just a list that I made here, and it's of the spider ETFs here, or most of them are. I guess some of these aren't, but it's basically the sector ETFs for the S&P 500. Now notice it's a free floating window. I can put it into this other layout here, or this workspace, but I'm going to keep it just floating for now. And a couple of things I want to point out here is when we look at the watch list, first you have kind of everything that you would expect in a normal platform. So essentially you have the symbol, you have price, you have the percent change, and then you have some other things here. And this is where I think TC2000 is pretty cool, is you can really customize and get very specific with these columns. So of course we're looking at fairly default things, but this 5-day return, 5-day daily return, this actually is a sort of a unique thing. This is something that I coded up here, and I just wanted to have this information at my disposal. So this is a little PCF formula here, which basically says I want to know what the closing price difference is between today's value and 5 days ago, and I want it displayed as a percentage. So I can easily then just click this, and I can see at a glance, okay, over the past 5 days, the XLE is the top performing sector. It's up 4.5%. If I go down to the bottom here, real estate worst performing, it's down 0.26%. So this is just a custom watch list column that I've created to display some fairly unique or just information that I care about. The next column here is a 30-day return, and then the last 2 columns are, again, some custom code that we put in here to display whether or not, with a check mark, if this particular symbol is above its 50 SMA, and then the last column's above a 200 SMA. So I can just at a glance here, when I'm looking at my sectors, be able to determine, oh, okay, well, XLE, it's the best performing sector over the past 5 days, but it's still below a 50 and a 200 SMA. So that means it's probably doing pretty poor on a longer term basis. There's probably been some damage here in XLE, and that happens to be the case at the time of recording this video. So the point here is that these watch list columns can be very customizable, and in fact you can put entire trade setups in here if you wanted. You could have criteria that had 6 or 7 different items in there, and if all of them are true, you'll get this check mark displayed for you. If not, then it's going to have just that empty grid there. You can change the colors, you can change the size, you can really do a lot here. The watch lists themselves are pretty powerful. You can change time frames, and you can calculate some pretty cool and interesting information inside of this grid by itself. And I think that's a real fairly unique feature there for TC2000, is just having the ability to put pretty complex conditions in. One last thing I actually want to show here in terms of ETFs, if I close this down now, and I click on this icon when I have, so right now I have the XLE highlighted. So if I click this little, say it's a hamburger icon, but it's got some dots there, this little list icon here, if I click this, what this is actually going to do is open up a list of all of the stocks that make up this ETF. And I think that's actually a really neat little hack, a really neat little feature here in TC2000, a shortcut just to see all of the components in the XLE. So as we just did, we looked at that analysis here of XLE being the top 5-day performer for sectors. Now we can just open up and say, okay, well, let's see what actually contributed to this performance the most. So now we can see, oh, okay, it looks like OXY was up 11% today. You can see a nice tight pattern here. Maybe this is an actual stock that I'm interested in within a top performing weekly sector. So you can see how you can just kind of drill down there and get some good information all at a click to figure out what's involved or included in an ETF. I think is something that really helps. It certainly saved me a tremendous amount of time from having to go to Google and try and find a prospectus on an ETF. I can just look to see if TC2000 already has that available. So watch lists. Pretty great on the flexibility and the complexity that you can get out of them, and that cool little trick there to figure out ETF components. Now, the next thing I want to talk about are scans, and scans are the bread and butter here for TC2000. This is what has kept us a subscriber for so long of the platform, is we've loved the ability to scan and all of the different kind of functions and fairly complex scans you can build out with this platform. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on the actually before I go into the actual code, what I want to do is I'm going to use a shortcut here. So if I just click the slash button, I can bring up indicators, and let's just throw on some RSI on this chart, and let's put in a moving average here as well. You can see how quick I can bring these things up by just quickly typing and using keyboard shortcuts. There's a ton of keyboard shortcuts for this platform as you become familiar with it. But I'm bringing these up because I want to just show you how to build scans without touching any code whatsoever. So if I actually just drop down on this indicator here and I bring up the options, the little toolbar here, I can go to create condition. And what this does is it brings up this create condition window, and now I can start to actually build out conditions to scan for or to put in a watch list. So what I can do is I can actually click this indicator here. I can select the 50 period moving average, and then I can do the condition that I want to see. And what I can do is I can say, well, I want the price history to be crossing up above the 50 period moving average. So in other words, I want it to be happening right now. And what I can do is I can click scan. I can also copy this, which is a new feature. Or I'll show you in the next window actually on how we can copy conditions. But let's just scan on this first. And what you'll see is if I scan this against all of the stocks right now, what you're going to see is we're going to get a list of, in this case, 403 stocks that are today crossing above their 50 period moving average. So you can see as I scroll down, or I'm hitting the down arrow on my keyboard and I'm paging through all of these different stocks. These are all names that were below the 50 period yesterday and are above the 50 period simple moving average today. So you can see that is a very simple scan that required no coding. I simply just had to click on the indicator and say what I wanted to see happen. Now I can also add to that by going down here to say the RSI. And let's say that I wanted to add to this. So if I drop down on the RSI and I hit create condition, and let's just say that I want the RSI today to be less than 30. Okay, so if I want it to be less than 30, and I can hit scan individually, and I can see there's 191 stocks here that have an RSI below 30. So that's great, but now I want to see if I can actually bring this into this other window. So if I actually click into the condition window and I copy conditions to keyboard, and I know I'm moving pretty quickly here. Again, this platform is just so huge. I would do a full hour video and barely scratch the surface, so I'm going to try and move kind of quick. But what I did is I actually just copied that to my clipboard, and I can paste it here by simply going into this other window. This is a new feature on version 20, so it makes it very easy to move around conditions when scanning. And so I'm combining these two conditions. So I'm saying I want to see the price cross above the 50-period simple moving average, and I want the RSI to be below 30. So basically what you're seeing is a stock that's starting to reclaim the 50 simple moving average, but it's still kind of oversold, if you will. And what this is telling us now is when we combine those conditions, there's only one stock that fits that criteria. Remember, individually there was 400 and then 200 stocks. Now when I put them together, there's only one stock. And you can see today it just crossed above the 50-period simple moving average. And if we look at RSI down here, it's at 29, so it's below 30. And this is actually a pretty cool setup. It's a stock that's reclaiming and pretty oversold and coming out of a nice consolidation. And that's a great example here on how you can easily build scans without really kind of getting into the nitty-gritty of code. Now, I like code and computer science background by trade, so the actual coding language is what has kept me so loyal to TC2000 over the years. And what you can actually then do is write your own formula. So instead of dragging and clicking on all of those conditions, you can use simple code to a syntax that they have out to really get very specific on your scans, and you can do some pretty powerful stuff. We have separate videos on it, so I don't want to get too in depth here, but let's just say, and I'm intentionally doing this, we only want stocks over $5, and I would say stocks over 5. That's the very easy syntax to say we want the closing price to be over $5. We want it to be true right now. You can see added that to the scan. If I scan here, we're still going to get this one stock because the stock's at $6. If I go back here and I say, you know what, I only want stocks below $5, you're going to see that this stock is going to disappear because all three of those conditions are not met by any stocks at this time. So we got guides we'll link up now, and in the description here, if you do pick up the platform and subscribe, we have an entire scan store that we've created. I think there's over 20, 30 individual scans that we have on there, and some of them are free, so you can try out some free scans. You can also download and purchase some of our premium scans that we think are pretty great for swing trading setups and some day trading setups on there, but I'll let you guys check that out if you're interested. So that sort of wraps up the scanning portion of TC2000. Let's jump into alerts, which are equally as powerful here. Basically, all of the conditions that we've talked about here, from watch list columns to scans, can be set up as alerts. And of course, you can have very simple alerts too. So let's just, for instance, say we want to see when this stock, RPAI, which I've never heard of until doing this video. Let's say I want to set an alert on this particular stock. I can click this drop down here, and there's lots of ways. So there's an alert icon up here. You can do lots of different things in multiple ways with TC2000. In fact, I consider myself an expert with the platform, but I still, believe it or not, after 8 years, learn new things each and every week. It's amazing at how deep and rich this platform is. But if I click this drop down here and I click on set alert, I'm going to bring up this alert window here, and I have basically the power to set alerts with whatever I want in regards to the price, an indicator value, 5, 6, 7 different conditions all having to happen at the same time. All of that is available here and is up for grabs with this alert screen here. I'm not going to go too in depth here because, again, it's just a deep rabbit hole, but essentially you can set everything we can set to make sure that we get notified by email and or text message, if you want to set it up that way, when, let's say, that condition makes itself available when when this price crosses above the 50-period simple moving average. You can also add in the RSI in there, et cetera, et cetera. So you can build pretty complex alerts, and it's pretty easy to do all of that. Now, another new thing, jumping to pre-market and post-market trading. As developers for TC2000 here, and as someone that's written lots of different scans and done lots of technical support for traders on this platform, one of the most common requests that we used to get in was the ability to scan on pre-market data and then sometimes post-market data. And finally, with version 20, you can do that. What you'll notice in the top right-hand corner right now, I have this post-market button that we can click. And if I click on this, what this does is it activates, it pulls in all of the post-market trading data. So let's move this back to, let's say, the S&P 500 here. Let's go down to a 15-minute time frame. Let me pull this off, and you can see here that this is the 4 p.m. end of 4 p.m. U.S. Eastern time here, end of market day. And if I were to click this post-market, you're going to see I just got all of these extra bars populated. I got a 15-minute time frame in here. So you can see that we are now seeing the post-market trading activity here in this lightly shaded area. All of that can be customizable, of course, about how the charts displays and looks. But the most interesting part is if I click on watch lists and then I go to post-market watch list, these are all of the stocks that were trading in the post-market during this the end of this trading day. So the really cool part about having this list is that I can now scan specifically on activity that is happening here during the post-market or the pre-market session. So what will happen is during the once the pre-market opens, a few hours, what is it, 3.5 hours? I'm not even sure when the exact start is, 3 hours or 4 hours before New York 9:30 open. So when the actual pre-market opens, this little toggle up here will turn to pre-market, and we'll have a watch list which now has pre-market stocks that are trading, and you can easily then start sorting on the gappers, the highest volume. You could look for indicator values. You could throw on your RSI or your moving averages, and you can see where things are moving, and you can basically plan out your day and get your watch list ready on the newsworthy or the in-play stocks using the pre and post market watch lists. These are super cool, much needed. Very glad to have this functionality in here. Even though I'm not a day trader myself that is really heavily using it, it certainly helps my inbox on people that are requesting these different things to come in for the platform and different functionality to get built out. So it's great to see this in here in version 20, pre and post market lists, and hopefully they continue to essentially add and build out features for this. Now, a couple of the critiques that I now want to get to about the platform. The first is that I really would like to see more data in the platform. I would love to see more data sets and longer data going backwards on the chart. So in other words, when I'm on a daily chart here for, let's just pull up the S&P 500 because it's easy, and I scroll back as far as possible here, this is as much as I can get when I scroll back, as I can get back about 5 or 6 years, which, look, don't get me wrong, for most of the day-to-day stuff I'm doing, that's 100% fine. But if I'm building scans or if I'm researching different trade ideas or different patterns in the market, I would love to get at least 10 years back, or I'd love to have some type of offline mode where I could get more data after the market has closed. Remember, TC2000 is serving all of this up in real time, and if I had 5 different charts up and 7 different watch lists and 8 different scans all running at once, it would be very intense use of resources and data. So I get that this could turn into a nightmare for them, but I would just love to have the option for more data. I'd also like to just have more markets available. So TC2000 is great for stocks and options. But if you want to start looking at cryptocurrency, or if you want to look at more of the index data, like worldwide index, and to get outside of just the U.S. stocks, and to also get some more economic data and fundamental data. These are all wish list items to essentially harness the power of the platform on other data sets. Would be something that I think would be huge for them. Just to get access to crunch more, markets in here. I personally would really like to see that happen. And of course, this review, I'm recording this in July of 2020. So hopefully, if you're watching this video 2 years later and it's 2023 and they have these new data sets in there, then kudos to the team. Hopefully, they'll watch this and listen and get those included in the platform. Happily pay some extra data fees to get some of those markets available. But at the time of recording this, we are limited on sort of the other pieces of markets and data that we have available. The other critique here that I want to give to them is, and this is something we've heard from other traders and questions coming in for, is just the mobile on-the-go experience. And to be perfectly frank, this is not something that I have any gripes with. When I'm looking to trade or do some research, I am sitting down at my computer, at my desktop or a laptop, and I am in a mode where I'm happy to load up the TC2000 application, the specialized software, which is what you're looking at here, to do all of that research and trading. What some traders are or have gotten used to, especially with lots of other charting platforms, is the browser-based option. The ability to, basically just jump on Chrome or Brave or Firefox, whatever you're using, and to just punch in an address and have all your charts available. Easy to do it on the go, someone else's computer, you're traveling. So I get the, the interest there. The good news is that with version 20, they did release pretty much the best version that I've seen for an on-the-go experience. They do have a browser version. If you head to their homepage, you can actually log in on their website and you can access TC2000 through your browser. The way they do it is actually pretty clever. They actually essentially host your entire workspace, your layouts, and they serve it up to you almost through like you're controlling someone else's computer. But the good news is they're doing all of the, your workload is on their servers or on their machine. The downside is you lose a little bit of this look and feel that we talked about at the beginning of the video. Charts aren't as smooth. You can basically tell that you're kind of working off someone else's computer. So, it's not perfect. And, if you're looking for that pure browser-based experience, you're probably not going to get or not going to be super satisfied with TC2000. It is really designed as an application first for Windows, or they have a Mac client as well, but I would recommend just using Parallels and trying to get it on Windows, because they always release the latest versions on Windows first. Mac version is usually behind. So I would recommend Windows, and that's something to certainly consider if you're thinking about the platform. The last thing I want to talk about here before we wrap up in version 20 is they introduced these things called scan plots and scan plot summaries. And again, this goes back to sort of what we love about TC2000 is that rich PCF language and the ability to customize different conditions and scans and watch list columns. So what we're going to do is we're going to just bring up a scan plot for you and show you really quick what this looks like. And this currently has a particular scan plot in here. And what this is doing is this is showing you over time, over historic data, what percentage of stocks are meeting this criteria. And the current criteria that we're looking at here is that the stochastics 12.3 is over 90. So basically you're seeing a very extended or overbought stochastics reading. I don't personally look at stochastics in my daily trading routine, so I have no opinion on whether or not this is something actually useful, but it's just a good example here. And basically right now we're looking, and again, this is trading against, or this is monitoring the entire US common stocks. So what this is basically saying is at the time of recording this, 8% of stocks have a stochastics with a setting 12.3 over 90. That may or may not be meaningful. You can see a couple weeks ago it was as high as 21%, and even further back you could see 30%, and all the way back here we get as high as 41% of all stocks had a stochastics reading over 90 on this particular day. So you could see that that's probably a pretty extended day in the short term. Of course, you can expand this to any set of conditions that you can conceive of. So this could be a very interesting view to do some homework, do some analysis, do some research. If you have a particular pattern or formation that you like to watch, you can now look at this over historical data and just see how common it occurs, and you can get very specific, and we'll probably do a separate video on this in the future because it is something worth exploring to certainly consider. Now, the thing with scan plots and scan plot summaries is that you are going to need a platinum subscription to get that functionality. Version 20 gave a lot of love to the platinum, the high-end subscriptions. It was much needed, well-deserved for the top-paying customers to get some new, unique, and interesting features. And I think it makes that option a lot more attractive. It'll set you back about $90 a month. Of course, that's at the time of recording this. If you're watching this years down the line, pricing could have changed, but it's $89.99 for the platinum, which is again all of the bells and whistles. That's everything available. You will have some extra data feeds. If you want real-time data, you're going to have to subscribe to that on top of the $90. But if you dial it back to the cheapest plan, it's $9.99 for the software. That is the bronze package to get the basic functionality. Then gold is in the middle at around $30. That's where most traders I've talked to tend to sit, is the $30 package. It gets you mostly everything available, and that's what unlocks the PCF, custom PCF syntax and language. That's where I'd recommend for basically everybody that's using the platform. Spring for the gold, it's $30. It's going to be the best $30 that you pay for. That's what I was using for pretty much almost all of my time with TC2000. After the introduction here to some of these cool new features, do have platinum unlocked here to see what you're seeing on the screen right now with those scan plot summaries. So that is about the final wrap-up feature I wanted to talk about in today's video. Again, this was about over a 30-minute video, and I barely scratched the surface on all of the things that are available. They do have a great help website with documentation, and we have, again, more guides specifically on the coding part of it and doing some more complex advanced stock selection and pattern recognition on our website. We also do have lots of scans available for download and purchase, free and premium. And we also write custom code for traders. So if you do have issues, or if you need things coded for you, indicators ported over from other platforms, reach out to us. Links are in the description of this video, and plenty more resources on our website. Overall, our conclusion here, I think, speaks in itself, is that we are practitioners and users of this software. We have been for since 2012, 2013 time, consistently producing videos and using this platform on a daily basis. So I think that goes to show what we think about it. If you're a stocks and options trader, then this is a platform you certainly have to strongly consider. We do have a referral program with TC2000. Whatever discounts they have available, whatever promotions they're running, if you use the link we will have in the description of this video, you will get those discounts applied to your order. They're always changing, so I have no idea what they are at the time of you clicking on it. But if you do like the software, you want to test it out and subscribe, use our referral link to get any discounts available. So that is it for me. Hopefully you found this video informative and interesting. Hopefully you learned a couple of new tricks here. If you have any comments, questions, or anything else, leave a comment below. Gladly read them, get back to you. Thanks so much for watching as always, and we'll see you in the next video update.